In this unit I'm going to show you how to create ceiling elements. So just switch to a 3D view and show you the simple building model that I'm going to use in this example. So single story with a number of separate rooms. So I'll just switch back to a level 0 floor plan. Now to create a ceiling we go to the architecture menu, and on that first build panel we have ceiling. Now it's important when you create ceilings to actually be in a ceiling plan view rather than a floor plan view. So I'm going to switch now. So if we look over in the project browser, the group we're in at the moment, floor plans. The next group down we've got ceiling plans as a group. If I expand that group there, so for each floor plan we have a corresponding ceiling plan. Just as we saw with the floor plans, they are basically a camera cutting through the model and looking down, and they have an associated level. Ceiling plans are a camera cutting through the model and looking up. They also have an associated level, so they can calculate where exactly to perform that cut and how far to look up. So if I switch to level 0 ceiling plan, you'll notice that the cut plane is actually above the doors and windows, hence we can't see those on this particular plan. So it is a true reflected ceiling plan. So if we go ahead now and select ceiling, there are two methods of creating ceilings in Revit. One is an automatic method and the second is a manual method in which we sketch out the perimeter of the ceiling elements. I'm going to show you both methods in this unit, but I'm going to start with the automatic one first. So if we look over to the properties palette, we can see the currently selected ceiling type. Now note that ceilings, like floors, are a system family. They're created by Revit as we need them. You can't take the ceiling objects that we create and save those as a separate standalone component family. So let's have a look at the choice we've got here. Two basic types, a basic ceiling or a compound ceiling. So typically suspended ceiling grids fall in this lower group, and I'm going to use one of those as an example. So let's take a 600 by 1200 mil suspended ceiling. Just check these instance parameters. We can specify how high the ceiling is, and we refer that back to a level. So level 0, which is in effect our ground floor level, the ceiling is going to be at a height offset from that level of 2600. So I'll leave that as it is at the moment. So we're happy with the height that the ceiling is going to be created in. So we're happy with the height that the ceiling is going to be created at. And all I need to do now is simply move over my ceiling plan. And if I do that slowly, you'll notice, and I'll just zoom in a little bit, make it clearer. As I hover over, Revit is detecting where the walls are and where it can form ceilings. And I simply click in those spaces everywhere where I want a ceiling element created. And that's it. So if I go back to a floor plan, obviously we can't see the ceilings in this floor plan because we're looking down here, not up. But what I can do is create a section. And if we switch to that section, we can indeed see the new ceiling elements that have been created at a height of 2600 up from that reference level, level 0 here. Just go back to a floor plan. I'm just going to place a camera in one of these rooms. Again, I'll cover camera views later on in the course. And we can see there the suspended ceiling element that we've just created. So that was creating ceilings automatically. I'll now show you the alternative method of creating them manually. Before I do so, I'm just going to delete the ceilings we've just created so we can start again with the sketch method. So I'm going to select everything in the model. I'm going to use the filter tool, and I'll show you this later on exactly how this works. But you can see now that Revit has detected we've selected walls and ceilings. Just deselect walls out of there. So now I only have ceilings selected. Hit delete, and we've deleted all the ceilings out of our model. Okay, let's go back and create ceilings by sketch. So remember, architecture menu, build panel, ceiling. Toggle that switch over to sketch ceiling rather than automatic. Just remember, before I do so, just remember to make sure you're in a ceiling plan view. The reason why I said that before is that if you're in a floor plan view and you do this, Revit will let you go ahead and create the ceilings, but you won't be able to see them, and you'll get a warning dialog box come up each time you add a ceiling element saying basically Revit has added the ceiling element but you can't see it. If you imagine in a floor plan, you are looking down into the model, so as you create your ceilings, Revit is adding them but they're above your head, so you can't actually see them being placed. So that's the reason why I stress being in a ceiling plan view when you create them, because you're looking up, and as we actually put them in place you'll see them as they're created. So let's go back and do this manually with a sketch method. Switch to sketch ceiling. Here's our old friend sketch mode, green tick, red cross. You'll hear me say that many times during this course. Again, that familiar draw palette, range of tools including pick lines and pick walls. I'm going to just sketch where I want my ceiling to be. It's the same philosophy as we saw with the floor elements when we were sketching those out, i.e. Revit's not concerned at all where the perimeter of your ceiling element is. It's not going to now check whether it can be supported. It is just wanting you to define where you want that perimeter to be. So I'll go with that for now. Remember the properties palette, your ceiling type. Remember, you can create your own types, edit type, duplicate, give it a name, change the parameters, pick that new type from the drop down selector. How high is the ceiling element going to be? Well, it's going to be referred back to level 0 with an offset height above there. Now I'll just mention a method I prefer when setting heights of ceilings. Rather than setting it as an offset from, let's say, a floor level, what I would do is set up a dedicated level in your project called, let's say, ground floor suspended ceiling height. Then you'd obviously pick that from the drop down here, and you'd have a height offset of 0. And then if you need to change the height of that suspended ceiling, you can literally go into a section view or an elevation and you can drag that level itself up or down, and obviously the ceiling that is referred to it will change height accordingly. Okay, so we've set our ceiling type, our height, we've got a sketch, hit the green tick, and as you may expect, Revit goes ahead and makes that ceiling element. When you've created your ceiling elements, you may want to reorientate or align suspended ceiling grids with either the center line of a room or the edge of a room. So if we look at this example and zoom in here, we may want to set out the first whole tile from the corner of this room, and we can do so. Just before I show you how to do that, I just want to mention what you're actually seeing here with these lines. These lines that represent the suspended ceiling grid, these are actually a model hatch pattern. So if I select the ceiling itself, there is the ceiling type, if I edit type and we look at its structure, and I hit edit structure, you can actually see that the bottom layer is a material called ceiling tile. So if I click on that little button there, that brings up the material browser. There is the material that that layer is made of, and you can actually see that a property of that material, its surface pattern, is this model hatch pattern. So if I cancel out of that, cancel, cancel and cancel, let's get back to our suspended ceiling. Now model hatch patterns such as this can be aligned along the surface of the element itself. So in a second you're going to see how we can move the model hatch pattern relative to the actual ceiling element itself. So the ceiling element object isn't going to move, still going to stay here in the boundary of the room, but the model hatch pattern that is placed on the surface of it, which is a property of its material as we've just seen, we can reorientate that. Now to do so we use the Align tool. So on the Modify panel we've got Align. I'm going to show you how those tools all work in detail a little later in the course, but for now just note that it's the Align tool you need to use to do this operation. Now with the Align tool, it's a two-click operation. The first click is what you want to align to, and then the second click is what you actually want to move, you want to be realigned. So we want to align this vertical here with the edge of the room. So I need to click on the edge first because that's what we want to align to, and now I need to click on what we want to realign. And now you'll notice that the whole model hatch pattern was shifted over and aligned with the edge. Now the little padlock that comes up, that's interesting. Revit is offering us the opportunity to lock that relationship, and if I do so, if we were to now move the position of this wall, so let's say our design was still developing and we changed the footprint, it would drag that model hatch pattern with it, so it always starts on a whole tile. Let's do that again with the bottom. So we want to align to this wall, and there is the line we want to realign. Click on it, and we may want to lock that into position so that relationship is always maintained. And you can see now that our room starts with a whole tile in the bottom right hand corner. That Align tool also works if we want to align, let's say, this grid line here with a canted wall. So again we can align to there, and I can pick any of these, it doesn't really make any difference, and Revit will rotate and align all at the same time in one click. And again, just remember that little padlock if you want that relationship, i.e. that grid line, to always fall on the surface of that wall. We can lock it into position. And that completes this unit. To get the most out of this training material, please take the complete course online at BIMscapecom. Here you will find a complete learning management system that allows you to work through the course at your own pace. Comprehensive written tutorials provide additional information to that found in the training videos. Mark each unit as complete as you finish it and move on to the next. At any point you can return to any of the units you have previously completed to go over the material again. If you'd like to take this course online, please visit www.bimscapecom/Revit for details.